The Red Fort bombing. It was a tragedy, and it was all over the news for weeks. But you know, the headlines, they really only scratched the surface. So today, we're going to go beyond those initial reports. We're going to dissect the anatomy of this attack, because what's hiding underneath reveals a new kind of threat, one that's evolving right under our noses.
And look, the really chilling part of this isn't just the explosion itself. It's who was behind it and how they did it. The real story here, the one we need to pay attention to, is about a new kind of perpetrator. You could call them a ghost in the system, someone who can plan and carry out an attack and then just vanish, leaving almost no trace.
So let's get right into it. The attack on the Red Fort wasn't just another tragic event. No, this signals a major shift. It's the introduction of a threat that is way more elusive, way harder to pin down than what security forces have ever seen before.
Okay, let's just quickly cover the basic facts so we're all on the same page. It was a suicide bomb attack. The perpetrator was a man named Dr. Umar an-Nabi. 12 people were killed in the initial blast, but here it is. This is the detail that changes everything. The terror module was self-radicalized and homegrown. That one little fact right there, that's the key to this whole thing.
And this was no random spur-of-the-moment act of violence, not at all. This was a meticulously planned plot. And the people who planned it, they completely shatter every single stereotype you might have about who a terrorist is.
The core of this operation, the entire cell, was made up of just 3 men, Dr. Umar an-Nabi, who was the bomber, and his 2 accomplices, Dr. Muzamil Shakil and Dr. Adil Ahmad Rother. Now, here's the detail that should really make you pause. They were all medical doctors, highly educated, respected professionals, not the image that usually comes to mind, right?
In their patience, it was just incredible. This whole plot started 3 years earlier, back in 2022, after they met with some radicals in Turkey. For the next 3 years, they carefully planned every single detail. And they did it all using the encrypted app Telegram, which kept them completely off the radar. This was a long, slow, deliberate process hidden in plain sight.
So we've got a new kind of terrorist. But believe it or not, it gets worse. They also brought a terrifying new innovation to their weapon of choice, making it exponentially more dangerous. They developed something experts are now calling a lowered kindling temperature IED. Now, what does that actually mean in plain English? Well, they basically created a new chemical cocktail that makes a homemade bomb incredibly unstable and much, much easier to set off. A lower kindling temperature means it takes way less energy to trigger a massive, catastrophic explosion.
And if you need any proof of just how unbelievably dangerous this new formula is, here it is: 9. That is the number of people, including security personnel, who were killed when the explosives they seized accidentally went off at a police forensic lab. Think about that. It is so volatile it exploded even in what was supposed to be a controlled, safe environment.
Educated professionals, planning for years on encrypted apps, using these incredibly volatile new explosives. You see how this is all pointing to one central, terrifying challenge? The heart of this new threat is what you'd call the no-imprint terrorist. So how in the world do you stop an enemy who leaves no footprints?
This comparison here really lays out the problem perfectly. You see, the old model, cross-border terror, was actually trackable. It relied on outside handlers, on communications crossing borders that intelligence agencies could, listen in on and intercept. That's how plots like the Hyderabad-Risson plot were stopped. But this new homegrown model, it's a completely different animal. It's self-radicalized people who barely communicate, leaving almost zero electronic imprint for anyone to follow.
An Indian intelligence source really summed it up perfectly. They said, electronic surveillance, it's great for flagging that cross-border activity. But for these homegrown actors, there's just nothing to see. It makes them incredibly difficult, almost impossible, to find before they attack. The old rulebook for counterterrorism, it just doesn't apply anymore.
Okay, so if the old rules are out the window, what's the new strategy? How do you even begin to fight a war against an enemy you can't see? That is the question that security agencies everywhere are grappling with right now.
The new battlefield is online. And this process of radicalization, it often follows a pretty clear and pretty sinister path. It all starts with a flood of propaganda on social media. Then, that builds into this powerful, all-consuming narrative of victimhood. And finally, that narrative gets supercharged with doctored, inflammatory images from conflicts around the world, all designed to do one thing: create white-hot rage and a desire for revenge.
So what's the big takeaway for law enforcement? Well, the entire strategy has to change, fundamentally. The Red Fort attack makes it painfully clear that the hunt for these hidden, homegrown cells has to be a nationwide effort now, not just in the usual hotspots, but everywhere, across the entire country.
And all of this leaves us with one final, deeply unsettling question. This new threat, it's not some outside invading force. It's a doctor, a student, a professional, someone radicalized silently, secretly. So the question we're all left wrestling with is this: how does a nation fight an enemy that looks just like a neighbor?